Hello, I am Elliot Diebold.
And I'm Ruben Morehouse.
And we're bringing you this special episode because some recent news has come to our attention, and we felt it was important that we share it with all of you because it's going to affect like this feed and our show and you know, all of you.
Yes, we have just received word that there is an asteroid on a collision course with Earth, and it's likely to kill us all. With this in mind, we are turning to our planet's only hope. Join us as we look for a solution in the most holy of texts as we go deep in Deep Impact.
Yes. That's the end of the script that I wrote. So how do we transition? Something we should bring up here as well. We kind of we were over ambitious with the pilot season schedule, or at least I was. So there's a delay on that. So that's why you're not really hearing a pilot season episode here. We've had to delay Empire of the East a week, and we've shuffled things around, and I've been a bit more realistic with what I can actually commit to.
Thinking about it now, we could just have pretended that this is a pilot that somebody asked us to do. And be like, yeah, I mean, this is our next pilot, guys.
Yeah, well, okay, cut. Hi, I'm Elliot.
Cut here, yeah. So what are we doing, Elliot? What's this episode?
Yeah, so I guess in the spirit of pilot season, we are trialing a bit of a new format because I managed to watch this movie, but Ruben, I guess, values his time better and didn't actually watch it. So this is going to be me explaining Deep Impact to Ruben as we go deep in Deep Impact.
Sorry, that's with an M, right, Elliot?
I actually struggle. I went to Google this movie after watching it, and I typed Deep Impact. My head has just broken now. Our pun has taken hold. I can't actually talk about the original movie.
It is, so for those of you who have been very confused by the title of our show for the past year and a half, Deep Impact is a movie that apparently exists, and despite neither of us ever having watched it, we thought, that sounds like the kind of thing we could make fun of, so let's call our show Deep Impact, and now we're here.
Well, we're just suckers for dumb puns, and the pun worked even if we hadn't seen the movie, so we went for it. Here we are, having gone full circle. Yeah. So, Deep Impact opens with Leo Bearderman, who's played by Elijah Wood, who of course we all know from Wilfred, who finds like something weird in his telescope at his high school astronomy club.
How old is this person? How old is Elijah Wood?
Yeah, no, he's like 15, 16. This is like mid-90s.
Is this pre-Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Oh my god!
It's pre-Wilfred too. Like he's from Wilfred.
Of course, his most famous role. Yeah.
Or Dirk Gently.
I prefer Dirk Gently. I was going to say Dirk Gently is Elijah Wood's famous role. Oh, there was this movie with, and I would normally worry that we're getting off topic, but I don't really care for this episode. I'm just going to say. So if you guys care about us staying on topic, this is not the episode for you. There's this movie that I saw with Elijah Wood and the girl who plays Charlie Sheen's next door neighbor in 2.5 Men. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No idea.
Her name is Rose in 2.5 Men, and she's like a really good actress, but she's just doesn't do that much. And I'm just gonna live Google this. Rose 2.5 Men, and the actress's name is Melanie Linsky. That's it. Okay. So it's this movie. Hold on, I'm gonna get the title of it here. Live Googling. This is what you come to this show for. So it's got Elijah Wood in it and Melanie Linsky, and genuinely she's so good. And the name of the movie is...
she's
in Wet Hot American Summer as well. It's called like... Oh, there it is. It's called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It's like an original movie that was done by Netflix, I think. Such a good movie. Elijah Wood plays this like really scuzzy kind of like almost doomsday prepper character. And Melanie Linsky's character, Ruth, her house is broken into at the start of the movie, and she enlists his help because they're next door neighbors, and she thinks that he looks tough, to try and find the people who broke into her home and like exact revenge. And it goes really off the rails. Really, really good movie. I would thoroughly recommend it. It's I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that actually does sound pretty cool. And the poster looks nice. I too am live Googling. Anyway, so back to Deep Impact. So Elijah Wood's character sends like a photo of this weird thing he found to the local like professional astronomer. And the astronomer takes like one look at it and somehow predicts that it's going to collide with Earth. And he freaks out so much he downloads it to a floppy drive. He rushes into his car and he's driving like so recklessly in his rush to get this information out there that he actually dies in a car crash. And then we cut to a whole year later. And the asteroid is the comet is still a year out. So I don't know why this guy was rushing.
And why has nothing happened in this year?
Yeah, we'll get to that. There's been some stuff happening, but like I just like to point out this comet was 2 years away. This dude did not need to be rushing like this.
I mean, if it's going to end the world, every moment counts, Elliot. I don't know if I agree with this. Yeah. Like, if someone said to you, oh, the world's going to end in 2 years, is your reaction, oh, that's 2 years away. That's a ton of time. I'll probably be dead by then anyway.
First thing I do is join the wards.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
No, so I guess...
and try and hunt down Jack Slash.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the joke you
that's the joke
it just
I was going
for me. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, I guess so. The other thing is as well, they actually do, like, so they know that the comet's coming in this year later, and the comet is actually named after this astronomer who died and Elijah Wood's character, because the only reason they know about the comet is because they found the floppy drive in, like, the car crash, which...
What was Elijah Wood doing for the past year?
Well, that's a separate issue. But the thing is, this car fucking blows up. Like, this is like,
really?
it's a 90s action movie, right? So this car, it falls down the hill and it explodes. But somehow this floppy disk was fine.
They don't make them like they used to, Elliot. Everyone knows that.
But the other thing is, nobody else found this comet. It's big enough that, like, a kid in high school can see it on his telescope, and it still took them like 6 months to find this floppy disk in a car crash to know it existed. So good work, American government.
If a comet was actually coming for Earth, would people are there scientists whose job it is to like check that we're not going to die from a comet in like
Apparently
2
not.
years?
I mean, this is like
that a real thing.
This is a shitty popcorn film. I probably shouldn't get bogged down in making fun of the
now how do I know that? Like, is there no like regulatory body out there? Because there's people like monitoring earthquakes and shit, and like monitoring all the natural disasters. And I know if some freak tsunami was going to come and wipe me away in Sydney, which obviously is very, very unlikely, but let's say that was going to happen, there would be people whose job it would be to like notice that and tell people, right? Well, but does that apply for comets?
I think people would notice. Like, I mean, we've got NASA, SETI and stuff, right? Like.
Yeah, and they're obviously like scanning a lot of shit. Yeah,
I think the problem is like you're generally more worried about asteroids because they don't really give off any light. You may not notice them until they're crazy close.
Yes, and just for all the listeners out there who may not know, the difference between an asteroid and a comet is
whether it's got a tail.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
That's the scientific term. Anyway, so we've cut to a year later. The asteroid is still a year away. And we now meet MSNBC journalist called Jenny Lerner, who's played by Tia Leone, who, of course, we all know from Jurassic Park 3, the best Jurassic Park. And she's investigating the Secretary of the Treasury or some other politician-y sounding title. This guy's like resigning because he says his wife's sick and she doesn't believe him. This whole segment is basically built around the joke that she finds out there's some secret in his life named Ellie. And she thinks he was having an affair, but it turns out Ellie is just a mishearing of ELE, which is extinction level event. And this guy's retiring to be with his family because they've just figured out the comet's coming and they're probably all going to die in a year. And he's not like this secretary guy isn't allowed to go public with that. So he's just trying to retire and spend time with his family.
How much of this movie does this part take up?
I got 15 minutes of the
because it's taking up about a proportional amount of our notes here, and it's really not important. You know that, right? Like, I could have deleted that whole paragraph in the notes. I don't think you even would have noticed.
No, because it's super important because it's this one pun that takes up like sort of 15 to 20% of the movie.
We did name our podcast, our most popular podcast, over a stupid pun. So I guess it's the pot calling the kettle black a bit here, isn't it?
Anyway, but so this reporter she accidentally ends up meeting the president because they think she knows about the comet, but she still thinks it's an affair.
So they're trying to keep it secret.
Yes. So nobody else knows about this, and they think she knows, but she actually doesn't. And so she's just sort of playing it cagey because she realizes something's bigger is up, and she meets the president, who's played by Morgan Freeman, who of course we all remember from Now You See Me Too.
Yep. Biggest role.
Yeah, and because he thinks she knows about it, he decides to announce that it's coming in 48 hours. And so then we kind of cut to him 48 hours later.
That was their plan? Like, they knew about the comet for whatever, 6 months, whatever.
Yeah.
And their plan was, let's not tell anybody and everyone will just die suddenly, or there'll be like maybe half an hour of panic and then everyone will just die anyway.
They had contingencies and they were expecting it to leak eventually, so they were sort of prepared. But wait, yeah, this is where he announces like their plans. So he basically says, hey, this comet's coming, but we have like a kick-ass crew of astronauts who we've given a bunch of nukes to, and it's like this team up between America and Russia, which I guess was still a big deal in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. So they're going to team up, they're going to send these astronauts who are going to land on the comet, bury a bunch of nukes in it, and
just to call you out quickly, I think it is a big deal now. Team up between the US and Russia. Like,
that's fair.
It's pretty big news at the moment. the potential team ups between the US and Russia, and fair. the potential implications of those team ups. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
It's always big news,
but for different reasons now.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So they're going to send some astronauts up there to blow it up, basically. I just want to point out, so something that happens here is they think that Elijah Wood's character, because they know that the astronomer who found it, his name was Wolf, like from Elijah Wood's character's photo, he named the the comet the Wolf Biederman comet after like Elijah Wood's character. Somehow the FBI and CIA have thought that Elijah Wood was an actual scientist who also died in the car crash with Dr. Wolf.
Yes, because of the Biederman, presumably.
Yes, exactly. So they announced that Biederman, who discovered it, is dead. And so all these people rush to Elijah Wood's house to make sure he's all okay, including this girl, Sarah, who he has like a big crush on. And she then delivers what I think is the best line in this movie, where it's like, this is where she's finally starting to see him as someone like cool. And you know, that's a big deal because he has a crush on her. And she says, nobody in Astronomy Club has discovered the end of the world before. Which is just like, who wrote that line? That's such a whack thing to say.
It's fine. Yeah, whatever.
But like the way it's delivered, I think it's meant to be genuine. Like, it's not her cracking wise. It's her like being genuinely awestruck that he's discovered the end of the world, and nobody in Astronomy Club has done that before.
What would you do, Elliot, if somebody you knew had discovered the end of the world? Would that make you attracted to them? Is that an attractive thing to have discovered the end of the world? I'm trying to think through it. Like, obviously, there's ramifications to it.
Yeah.
Like, if someone had discovered like the cure for okay, so on the list of things to discover, right? Cure for cancer. If you discover the cure for cancer, you become like 20% more attractive, 50%, somewhere, whatever. Some amount more. If you discover, what's the most unattractive thing to, like nutritional, I apologize for it's the first thing I thought of, potential nutritional value of fecal matter, right?
Okay.
You've discovered that. And if someone discovered that, obviously the first question that everyone asks is, did that person just eat their own shit and then found out that there was nutritional value to it, right? Like, that's what I would think if I heard that. So that's the most unattractive thing you could discover, right?
Well, yeah, but Elijah Wood becomes famous because he's got the comet named after him and like news people talking to him. So it's more like just because he's general famous. Like, in fact, the guy from Veronica Mars and iZombie,
the dad?
No. It's one of her love interests. The bad boy one from Veronica Mars. It's been years since I watched that. I can't remember.
A lot of the shows us just googling people. Okay, Veronica Mars. What's the character name?
I can't remember. It's been so long since I watched it.
All right, hold on. Veronica Mars IMDb. What was the like relationship?
I'm pretty sure they get together at some point in the show.
Mars boyfriend. Okay. Veronica Mars boyfriend.
I could be wrong about that. It's Logan.
Is it Logan Eccles?
Yes.
Okay.
Played by Jason Dohring. Anyway, so he's in it, and it's like a very young him. And I
don't even recognize him. Google him, guys. Tell me if you recognize him. I don't recognize him.
Anyway, he has a big thing where he's like, Leo, you're going to get so much sex now. And then it's like very scandalous because he says this at a high school. Anyway, but that's when... Anyway, after he says this, Elijah Wood just like looks at Sarah for like an upsettingly long time.
Nice. Good on you, Elijah.
Anyway, so then... Now we actually start to meet the astronauts who are going to nuke this thing, and it's like this is like a very American national pride storyline that we have going on here. Like, you know, they're having a barbecue party thing, and they're all their families are just like obnoxiously.
Is it 4th of July?
It may as well have been. It's very American branded. Anyway, they actually go up. And I'm just going to sort of summarize something because this is the least interesting plot line to me. They actually fly up in their spaceship, also known as a space shuttle. They go to the comet, and
just space fact for you there.
And anyway, they kind of fail. Their drills get stuck drilling into the comet. It doesn't quite work. So all they manage to do is split the comet in half. Both halves are still on a trajectory for Earth, which is like super unfortunate if you think about what blowing things up is like.
Yeah.
So it's now in two pieces. The small one is called Biederman, and it's like a kilometer long, and the other one's called Wolf, and it's 6 or 7 miles, 6 or 7 miles long. Yeah. That's actually a big difference. Anyway, so they're both still coming for Earth. So we cut back to Earth, and President Morgan Freeman sort of gives a big speech about how he's going to keep the economy afloat as everyone's panicking about the end of the world. And honestly, this whole segment is a bit too real, given like the world events. Who needs
the economy to be kept afloat?
Well, because they're still not. I don't know, because it's still like 6 or 7 months out. The asteroid.
I thought it was 48 hours away.
No, 48 hours is when they were going to announce that it was real. Like it was still a secret. The 48 hours is like in 48 hours they were going to say, "Oh, by the way, there's an asteroid," and that's what they did. No, so this is like they've blown it up in half. It's still a couple of months away.
Yeah,
and so the president is like, "Don't worry, the economy's gonna be safe." It's very like he starts talking about like the prices of essentials like water bottles, and he may as well have said toilet paper. It's a bit real. But basically, what they've got is they've made these caves that they're going to be able to survive in. So 200,000 people have been selected based on their qualifications, and there's going to be a lottery to put another 800,000 people into the shelter to preserve like the American way of life.
Wait, so this is just Americans? Other countries doing their own
Yes, other countries have their own systems. They don't really get into it because what do other countries matter? I mean, the system though for the 200,000 people who get in for their qualifications is clearly a joke because the first person we find out who has made this list is Leo Biederman, the fucking high school kid who accidentally discovered the comet.
Can you imagine being a nerdy high school kid and you get bullied in America because there's a 90s movie and that's how high schools worked in 90s movies in America.
Yeah.
And then your name is on the comet that's going to destroy the world. Like, what a shit world! What a shit school life this kid would have had for those 6 months.
It makes him really cool in the school.
How could it possibly make you?
He becomes like a celebrity.
There's no way. Oh yeah, you're the guy who is going to kill the world. Yeah, I love that kid.
He's in the news. Anyway, yeah. So
he's in the news, but he's in the news for a shit like someone who's in the news for like committing a crime doesn't become super popular. They have like, I'm sure they have some weirdo fans, but it's like it's not like a popularity booster to be in the news for a shit thing.
Well, you say that, but that's exactly what happens. So
in this movie,
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you're right, and because it happens in this movie, obviously it's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is one step away from being a documentary. Yeah. So anyway, basically, Leo gets really upset because Sarah and her family don't get to go. So he kind of figures out if he marries her, he can use his pull that he gets for being the person who discovered the comet to get her and her family also into the shelter. And I'm mostly bringing this up because he then proposes to her, and his proposal is, and this is word for word, "You've got to marry me. This is the only way you survive." Which is, if that just is the most romantic proposal I've ever heard. Like, genuinely, I had this on in the background while I was doing other stuff, I'm not going to lie. I actually sort of rewound and watched it because the way he said it, it made it sound like a threat.
Was it a threat? It does sound like a threat the way you said it as well.
It was like, yeah, the dissonance you have while watching that line is just insane because I was like, that sounds more like a threat than a loving proposal. But it works, which is a good thing.
Can I ask you a question, Elliot?
Yeah.
What do you think about Elijah Wood in general?
I mean, I'm pro
Elijah Wood. I think he feels like he's kind of a divisive figure, not for any real reason, just because he's kind of a weird guy, right? Like, he feels like he's. And here's what I want to talk about: is he a good actor? I feel like he's a good actor, but I actually don't know now that I think about it.
He definitely is one of those actors who, like, most of what I've seen him in, he's played a similar kind of role. Like, if I think about Wilfred and Dirk Gently, very similar roles.
Exact same character. And actually, quite similar in the other movie I just mentioned. I don't feel at home in this. Got some differences, but definitely. I feel like he's like a Daniel Radcliffe type, where he did the big thing, which obviously for Elijah was Deep Impact, and for Daniel Radcliffe was Harry Potter. And then just kind of has so much money from, you know, Deep Impact that he can just do whatever he wants. And I kind of admire that. Like, I admire having the money to chase whatever your creative passion is, because he's done all these weird movies. Like, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. He did a recent one where he was like a guy going to his dead father's cabin to like check it out and like clean it up. I don't really remember what that movie was about. I didn't even see it. But
although, I mean, if we're comparing him to Daniel Radcliffe's done that way more hardcore. Daniel Radcliffe's in the weirdest fucking shit these days.
Have you seen Swiss Army Man?
No, but I've heard about it.
Such a good movie. The first movie I saw Daniel Radcliffe in after Harry Potter was a movie called Horns, which is where he plays a guy who just kind of grows, who lives in like a Christian town, and he just grows horns one day.
Yeah, I've heard about that one as well.
It's again, it's like the kind of movie Daniel Radcliffe, and it's not like, I really like Swiss Army Man, which is a weird as fuck movie, but Horns is not that good of a movie, but it is really weird. And I feel like Daniel Radcliffe picked it just because it's weird. And he was like, I just have to do something to not be associated with Harry Potter anymore. And honestly, I mean, he did that Guns Akimbo movie recently, right?
Yeah.
Which is the meme gun stapled hand movie thing.
I think he's successfully distanced himself from Harry
genuinely
Potter.
Doing a good job setting aside the, you know, pre-19-year-old Daniel Radcliffe from the post-19-year-old Daniel Radcliffe. You do have to hand it to him, I think.
No, when I hear Daniel Radcliffe now, I think weird shit, not Harry Potter. So I think he succeeded.
When I hear someone say Daniel Radcliffe, the picture that comes into my mind is that picture from Guns Akimbo where he's in the like bathrobe with the guns in his hands, looking like a crazy person.
Yeah, totally.
So good work, Daniel Radcliffe.
Anyway, now that we've somehow pivoted from talking about Elijah Wood to Daniel Radcliffe offending everyone everywhere, probably.
Yeah. Well, I think that comparison is made a fair amount.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to expect it by now.
Back to the world of Deep Impact. The first comet. I keep calling them asteroids.
Yeah.
The first comet hits, and so this is the small one, the Biedermann, and it lands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, creating like a giant tsunami. And this is all like explained that that's what this one's going to do. The other one is going to hit Canada, and just wipe out like all life on Earth. Anyway, so the bit where this first comet hits was actually like genuinely like really good. So I've skipped over the rest of it, but seeded throughout the rest of the movie up till now, that reporter chick I was talking about before, she's had this subplot to do with like her mum and her estranged father, and her father basically wanting to connect to her more, and her telling him to fuck off because he was a shit father. And she basically reunites with him last minute after giving up her place in these bunkers to her colleague who has a kid, so that the colleague and the kid can get in. And there's like then this fantastic shot of her reuniting with her dad on the beach, and so like it kind of zooms out and you see the water recede as the tsunami comes, and then this fucking like 300-meter wave comes and just swallows them up as the camera continues to zoom out. And it was honestly it's just a fantastic shot. I actually got emotional, which was bizarre because I cared literally not at all for the character up until that scene. So yeah, like that was just a genuinely great moment that really stood out from the rest of the film.
Damn. I mean, tsunamis are like aesthetically interesting, right? Like the shot of water receding on the beach is one that is always, I think, going to be quite chilling, because it's this like primal thing that we as humans just kind of get, right? And you know what it is as well? Because when I was younger, the disasters that I heard about the most, I think, were tsunamis.
Yeah, the Boxing Day tsunami was a big thing.
Right. And there was always a lot of like, it was big in Australia because it was so close to us. But also the Japanese tsunamis I would hear about a fair amount. And it's like, that one I think just strikes home to me in a way that like tornadoes and stuff and floods don't really as much. Maybe bushfires are probably the other one that hits home for me as an Australian. But yeah,
I'd agree with that.
I'll always find those chilling, I think.
Yeah. No, this was like, you know, for a film that is, you know, made in the 90s and most of the effects haven't aged super well, although it held up pretty well. This was a scene that still just like blew me away, especially because the sky turns orange because of like the meteor hitting and stuff. There's a comet. So I'm just going to use every word but comet, apparently. Anyway, then from this like really great sort of emotional scene, we then cut to what I would just describe as like a CGI fest of the tsunami hitting New York.
Yeah, nice.
None of our characters are in New York. Like, there's no reason for this except it's kind of cool.
I mean, New York is and I say again because we just talked about this on a different show. New York is the place that always has to be shown getting destroyed for any like apocalyptic movie. You got to have the Statue of Liberty getting destroyed. Does that happen in this movie?
Yeah, it does. And in fact, there's actually because what happens then is then they cut to showing bits of the city underwater, and they're just showing this random street, and the head of the Statue of Liberty floats past. Like
love
somehow
that
got detached. The Twin Towers get hit, which because it's the 90s.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a whole scene that exists because they had budget, I guess. Anyway, we cut back to
budget to burn.
So we cut back to like Leo, who's getting picked up to be driven to the bunker, and there's like been a mix-up. So Sarah's family isn't allowed to come with him and his family, and Sarah decides she doesn't want to leave without her family, and that is allowed to happen, which is just frankly bizarre parenting.
But I don't know. I mean, like, okay, so Leo's plan was to propose to Sarah to get her to come with him.
That's right. He did kind of coerce her into this relationship, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I don't know. Like, would you rather stay with your arranged marriage boyfriend / husband or your family? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they were meant to have been like childhood friends or something. Like he's quite close with her parents and stuff as well.
Okay.
Like it was like their families were friends. Anyway. Apparently not content with not being the worst parents out there. After Leo and his family arrive at the bunker, Leo decides he wants to go back for Sarah, and his parents let him. That's even more bizarre.
They've made that decision at the time.
They did kind of get rushed by the army men who were putting them in the vans that were like driving them to bunker. But it's just kind of whack. So he, I guess, walks all the way back to Virginia from Missouri, where this bunker is. Which I looked up a map of America, and that's a decent walk to make in like 2 hours.
Google Maps says the walk would take 290 hours. In fact, the drive would be 13 and a half hours, so I think it's not possible.
Anyway,
I think the flight would probably be
I don't think he flew. Yeah. Anyway, so he gets back home, he steals Sarah's dad's motorbike, and figures out they're trying to get up into the mountains to avoid the tsunami. So he goes there. He finds them like stuck in this giant traffic jam that everyone is stuck in. It was really funny to see what they put, like all the cars stuck in this traffic jam. They've tried to make it look like everyone's packing their shit. They want it to look hectic, so all the cars are like super loaded up. But if you really look closely, like most of the cars have just like pool toys and inflations on them, which is like
they're cheap and they take up a lot of space.
Yeah, exactly.
When you spent all your budget on New York, detaching the Statue of Liberty's head, you got to cut costs somewhere.
Anyway, so I just love this detail of like everyone's running away from the tsunami with their pool toys.
Like, these might be useful in case it catches up to us.
If we don't quite escape it, we can ride in this little inflatable swan.
At least we'll go out with some fun.
Anyway, so he manages to find Sarah and her family. The parents can't fit on the bike, so they basically put Sarah and her baby brother on the bike with Leo, and Leo starts riding the bike like up the hill to get away from the tsunami.
So Sarah does decide to leave her family in the end, just not...
Yeah.
In a good, like she could have left her family in a good way, but she left them in a bad way instead.
Yeah, exactly. And so then again, there's another like pretty good clip of, well, good in the sense that like emotionally it worked on me, of her parents kind of embracing each other as they get hit by the tsunami.
Damn.
I don't know what it is about those shots, but they were just working on me. All the tsunami death montages. Anyway, so Sarah and Leo make it far enough up the hill that they don't get got. And so the last we see of them is them sitting on the hill.
That begs its own question of like, why didn't these other people just get out of their cars and go up this hill?
They had a motorbike. Like, Leo was on the motor, so they rode the motorbike up the hill. So it was like, okay. I don't think they could have run that far, but also the parents didn't try. So
you never know. Yeah.
Anyway, so then cutting back to space. Again, I skipped over most of this plot line because it didn't work for me at all, but the astronauts all got injured when they failed to blow up the comet. So, like, they just kind of been dropping the ball in every way possible. But they've been traveling back to Earth kind of alongside the comet over the last few months, and they realized that...
how are they still alive?
They brought supplies. Like, this is how long the mission was meant to go.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So anyway, but like one of them got blinded, and one of them died, and I think one of them got his arm hurt or something. Anyway, but they're all still they're still looking, and they realize that the comet. So they're still next to the big one, which hasn't hit yet, but the one that's going to wipe out all life. And they realize, oh hey, it has a giant hole in it that we didn't notice before, from when it separated. And
how long did it take them to notice this?
A couple of months. And they realize they can basically fly in and use the nukes they have left over to just blow it up, but they don't have enough fuel to make it back out. So they all unanimously agree that they're going to do this suicide mission where they just sort of fly in and blow the comet up from the inside.
But they had nukes left over though, so they could have done other stuff for the past 4 months to try and do anything. I don't know. But they didn't.
The timeline here is very confusing to me as well, because they've been out of contact. Like nobody was sure if they were alive or whatever. With the whole thing, maybe I'm wrong about the timelines, but that was what I understood the timelines to be.
Is this not a good movie, Elliot?
Let's get there. Okay. Anyway, so they managed to turn their radio back on and be in contact with Houston for the first time in ages, and they talk to their families and sort of say their goodbyes. It's actually kind of emotional, and then they go and blow themselves up and save the day. Like the nice. Comet doesn't blow up.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Have you heard of a TV show called The Tiger King? It's a documentary. It's on Netflix.
I've heard a lot about it over the last week or two.
Yeah, it's really good. I watched the first episode. You should get into it. It's about wildlife.
Does this have any relevance?
No, it doesn't. It's about wildlife in the US and how people are allowed to keep exotic pets, and the weird political interplays between these people who maintain and breed and maintain these private zoos of big cats and other exotic animals. It's just really, really fascinating. So I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I'll probably recommend it over this.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so yeah, they stop the second comet, and then we cut to the final scene, which is Morgan Freeman standing in front of the White House being rebuilt and giving a speech about how they're going to rebuild because things aren't that bad. They just lost a couple of million lives between them, Africa and Europe. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, my thought as I was watching Morgan Freeman talk about how they were going to rebuild society after that is that sounds like an interesting movie. I'd watch that. And that made me realize the thing with this movie for me is that it's 3 good movies crammed into one average movie.
So the 3 movies are Leo's story.
Yeah.
The story of the
reporter.
Astronauts. Oh, the report. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she takes up a lot more of the screen time. You know how I hand waved over the whole thing with her and her parents? That's a decent chunk of the movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that's the thing. I didn't really start to care about any of those plot lines till the people were actually dying at the end. And I think that's just because it was...
That's heartless.
The way it was moving through them all, it just took me longer to actually connect. I think any one of these 3 plot lines, just as its own movie, probably would have been better. It's jamming them all in that just made me not really enjoy any of them as much. And then so it's 3 good movies crammed in together to make one alright movie.
So what you would have liked is kind of an anthology of short stories, almost, of here's the short story about the reporter, here's the short story about Leo, here's the short story about the astronauts.
Yeah, actually, I genuinely wonder if there's a cut of Deep Impact that's all of Leo's story, then all of
the reporter's story.
Yeah, what's her name again? Jenny. That's it.
Yeah.
All of Jenny's story, and
Jenny
then all
Lerner.
and then all of the astronaut story, and keeping them separate and seeing if that actually works better, because I think it might.
Yeah.
Just having 3 30-minute sort of movies in a row.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so that's Deep Impact. So the way to stop comets is really suicide runs from astronauts, I suppose, and lotteries to help people pick who survives.
Before we wrap up our show, Elliot, of course, time for our bonus bit where we dive into the comments of what people thought about Deep Impact, 40 years ago when it first came out?
Oh, that sounds about right. 1996.
Reviews of Deep Impact.
I was just doing the same thing. I figured you already had them up when you started that bit.
No, I did not think it through before I made the joke. So here's a comment.
Wow, 45%. That's
yeah. I'm on the Rotten Tomatoes too. This is a comment by Michael Wilmington, the top critic at the Chicago Tribune, who says, "Why isn't it scarier? Maybe its targets are too scattered, its final impact too shallow. Maybe director Mimi Leder couldn't locate the right overall tone, and maybe the 2 writers simply don't take the story very seriously." So I haven't seen the movie, but that sounds like a good critique of it.
I would agree with that. There's a weird lack of the people freaking out. Like, there's like hints that things have gone a bit post-apocalyptic in the weeks leading up to the comets arriving, but it's like barely touched on. Again, it's just a movie that like bit off way more than it can chew.
A lot of these comments are making puns about shallow, because the movie's shallow and that's the opposite of deep. And it's okay. It's an okay joke. I like it. So good work, Dennis King of Tulsa World.
Sorry, we'll have to cut around this. I'm Google. There's that like insane Letterboxd reviews.
Right.
Okay. There's that Twitter insane Letterboxd reviews. I'm trying to find out if they have a Deep Impact.
Oh yeah, that's
entry.
Good. I'm going to see if Armand White has a review of it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now, okay, he doesn't. But what he does have is a review of Parasite. And the title of this Parasite review by Armand White is Antifa Comedy for the Cancel Culture Era.
Oh, Jesus
that
Christ.
just sounds incredible to me. Here's the byline. Bong Joon-ho laughs at family and social ruin.
What? Ooh, I haven't actually seen Parasite, but I know enough about it to know that...
You should watch it. It's pretty good.
I've been meaning to. Who has the time?
Armand White says, Bong is an unfunny extremist. God damn, Armand White. You've outdone yourself in this one.
I found a review by President J of Deep Impact.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Who says this is so much better than its twin sister Armageddon, which points out that it has pretty much the same plot, which is why I kept... Because I hadn't seen either, and I was actually expecting, when I sat down to watch Deep Impact, the whole plot line of like the oil drillers being trained to be Bruce Willis. I think that's what happens in Armageddon. Anyway, so I'm glad that it's not just me being dumb that got them confused. It just sounds like they're just rip-offs of each other.
Sorry, I'm very distracted reading this review of Parasite. He starts comparing Bong Joon-ho to sorry, I need to pull up the name here. Where is it? There we go. Okay. To Stephen Chow, another film director. For some reason, it's never really quite clear why. I think because they're both Asian, he's just kind of comparing them. And so the final paragraph of this is, I'm just going to read it out. Millennial social satirists don't dare personal revelation. Bong repeats the same self-pleasing psychosis as in Call Me By Your Name, which is the first time that this movie has been referred to, and it's coming up now in the conclusion. When the grifter Kim I'm not going to read this whole thing. I've thought better of it. But this is a great review. You should all check it out. If you don't know who Armand White is, he is just ridiculous.
He's valuable as a critic in that if he gives a movie a bad score, I know it's probably going to be good.
He reviews things opposite to what they are, basically, is the description.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's an inverse correlation between the score he gives a movie and how much I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, God. I'm looking through. He's given some really good reviews to some interesting films. Wow. He really liked Marriage Story, though, so there you go. Oh, no, wait, sorry. I was looking at the tomato meter for these movies. That's why. Yeah, no, he didn't like Marriage Story. I'm sorry. I was like, wow, he liked Little Women? That's weird. And then I'm like, oh, no, wait. No, he didn't. He said, the crazy, boring, laughable thing about Greta Gerwig's Little Women is the casual racism is merely the start of its problems. What a long review. Anyway. Wow.
Meanwhile, I have been staying on task. I'm still going through insane Letterboxd reviews.
Yeah.
Here's a movie. Here's a review for an extremely goofy movie, which was a Goofy Disney movie. Goofy the dog.
Yeah, I know Goofy the dog. Yeah.
And so Daniel La has just said that this movie is the origin of his daddy kink. So that's fun.
Sure.
This is a great Twitter.
It's insane Letterboxd, right? Yeah.
Yeah, insane Letterboxd reviews. Godzilla King of Monsters is the movie equivalent of Fortnite.
What does that even mean? Oh my god. Okay, I found the worst one on Armand White's reviews.
Yep.
So the movie Serenity. Do you know the movie Serenity? It's got Matthew McConaughey in it. Not the Firefly one.
No, not then. No.
It has it's one of the very few movies that he's given a fresh tomato to. It's got a 20% score on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's really a terrible movie, I can say. Oh, Peppermint, which has a 12% Rotten Tomatoes score on Rotten Tomatoes, obviously. He's given a certified fresh to. Anyway, is this show over? What are we doing?
Yeah, I guess that's the end. I didn't even write an outro script, but I mean, if this is your thing, I guess head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and sling us some money. Because that's what keeps the network afloat and helps bring
great
content that's better than this.
How dare you?
To your ears.
Yeah, I mean, that's the episode, right? Join us next time as we go even deeper in Deep Impact.
We usually plug Wildbow's Patreon, so we should plug the Patreon of who directed Deep Impact.
It was like Mimi Lerda? If that's correct, that's a wild pull for me to have just got
Mimi
we just
Leder.
read it like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Okay, so head on over to Mimi Leder's Patreon. I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
She has a Ko-fi, potentially. Mimi Leder Twitter. Let's see if there's a way to support her. Is this her? Maybe. Unverified, but it does look like it.
Her PayPal isn't linked on her Wikipedia. We should contact her agent about that. It makes it hard to donate to her.
Oh, well, just tweet your support at people, I guess. All you can do in these trying times. I hope everyone's having a good time. Maybe it was a bit weird for us to do a...
Have we actually said this is an April Fool's joke?
Yeah, I mean, is it? No, because it's one of our longest episodes.
Look, I mean, it's gotten a bit out of hand. This is sort of an April Fool's joke / apology for delaying pilot season / I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, who knows what this is. Support Wildbow's
Should we do
Patreon.
A discussion question? Like, what would you do, or what do you think would happen to your life if the comet that was going to blow up the world was named
Elliot,
after
we're getting too close to the reality of our current world situation. I think we should pull back on the reins a little bit. I hope everyone's just having a good time and just being safe and happy and healthy, and we love you all and have a great time. And enjoy Animal Crossing. It's pretty fun. I'm really getting into it.
Yeah, I need to play it more.
It's on Switch, and you can get it, and there's so many fun things to do. You can catch fish, you can catch bugs. I've actually, right in front of me, I'm rustling the papers now to prove that they're here. I've written down all of the fish and bugs that you can catch in March, and I've got little green stars next to the ones that are going away, and you can't catch them anymore once March is over, which is tomorrow, so I've got to catch some more tonight. I just need to get a Goliath beetle, which is found on trees between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. in the Southern Hemisphere. So, yeah. Better
get on that.
Yep.
I guess while we're just like completely engrossed in do the right thing energy.
True.
I saw an article, like a Japanese company tried using Animal Crossing as their meeting platform, while they're all working from home.
And there was an Aussie game dev studio that did the same thing.
Oh, really?
It's a wild decision to do, right?
It didn't go well for the Japanese company because when they hit a roadblock in a meeting, they all just went fishing and then they forgot about the meeting.
Yeah, and the typing speed, if you're not using the app, you have to type in using the Switch, and it's maybe like half a WPM typing speed, I think.
Yeah, it's way slower than a phone.
It's really rough. But a fun game overall, so I'd recommend it.
Anyway, so that's our episode that was on Animal Crossing. Thank you for coming along.
See you next time for more Deep Impact.